All right. Here we go on 3. 1, 2, 3. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash. And as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the most S, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling? Fantastic.
I'm excited to be here with you, as always, living my best life.
Living La Vida Loca. Yeah. For those who think I'm already intoxicated, I'm not. I'm desperately underslept.
Yeah.
Listen, it's good. That. It's good. I'm back in production on Not Dead Yet, premiering February 7th. Check it out.
Hey-o.
But it just makes these days long.
Yeah.
It's
good to remind them that you have a full-time job and then there's this.
Yeah. And also a full-time job that is longer than some full-time jobs.
Than a typical.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I mean, there's lots of different kinds of work, lots of different lengths. I'm not suggesting that my life is hard by any stretch. I'm just saying there's only so many hours in the day is what I'm saying.
Correct.
Yeah. But we're keeping on. Yeah.
So who knows what's going to come out in this?
I did say to Christy before we started, I'm going to give a caveat right off the bat. I am a level of exhausted that I haven't reached since we were shooting the last season of this show.
Sure.
And doing the podcast at the same time. So what that means is I'm a jagged little pill. I'm bringing that kind of energy to the table. So who knows? Who knows?
Oh, yeah. And the subject matter of this one's got me jagged. So it's a combination that I can't wait to melt together.
Listen, I couldn't be more excited. Now, there is one thing I wanted to talk about very quickly.
Yeah.
So I was on an episode of a little program called Hell's Kitchen, and it has just aired, and we've been getting a lot of messages about it. So I thought I would talk about it very quickly because I have some fun details.
Sure.
First of which being, we shot that, and I double checked because I forgot about it because it was almost 2 years ago.
Oh my God.
We shot it in March 2022.
No shit.
Yeah. So people were asking me, what did you eat? And I'm like, I don't remember. And then I took a picture of the menu backstage, but we weren't allowed to take our phones into the dining room. So I couldn't take photos of the actual food. I should have written it down is my point. But so here's the deal. There's not a ton of stuff to report, but I can give some fun facts. Basically, we were seated kind of like a little bit further back in the dining room. And here's what I'll tell you. You can't hear what's happening in the kitchen. You can kind of see it, but you don't really know what's going on. But it's still kind of like mesmerizing because it's Gordon Ramsay. Sometimes you hear yelling, all of this kind of thing. The food that I ate, I do remember out of this world. Exceptionally good. Like it lived up and surpassed any of your expectations. But here's the only fun kind of detail I'll give. Because there's got to be something. I got to give something fun. I don't think I signed anything saying I couldn't tell this. We'll find out. So basically, it's getting towards the end of the meal service, and half of the dining room has dessert. But then suddenly we look and like all of the kitchen is empty. Everyone's gone. But we didn't have our dessert yet. And so we kind of waited and we thought, oh, well, maybe it's just behind like the serving staff or something. And as time passed, it never came. But the other thing that was wild was that there was no announcement. Like no one said like, thank you all for coming. It's done. So we kind of lingered for a while. And then we were like, I guess we should go. Like there was no clear, definitive, there was no host, if that makes any sense.
Oh, sure.
So there was no way to know. And because again, anything can happen in Hell's Kitchen, which if you watch the show, you know to be true. I was like, is this a part of something? Anyway, so eventually we just kind of like pushed our chairs back from the table. We're like, well, I guess we're gonna sneak. I guess this is it. But listen, And I also want to preface all of this, or I guess this is after. What's the past tense of preface? Postscript this? Oh my God. That's what I'm bringing to the table, folks. Buckle in. It's not getting any better. It won't. That is a guarantee that I promise you.
Sure.
Anyway, as a postscript to this, I don't know. I'm not saying any of that as a negative. It's not a criticism. I was
Sure.
thrilled that we didn't get dessert, that it was all confusing. I mean, it just added to the experience. You know what I mean? Because it's
Sure.
also, if you go to one of those dinners, now we were pretty far along in the season, so it wasn't, early on, if you go to one of those dinners, the kitchen gets shut down regularly and you may not get your full meal. So I understood going in that there was a very large possibility I wasn't going to get a full meal because we didn't know what episode they were filming or where it was in the season or anything like that. For
Sure.
me, it was just the like lack of wrangle at the end that was
Sure.
fantastic. I was like, I love that they're just like, it's over and you'll have to figure that out on your own.
Like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
And you decide every possible angle that it takes.
Yeah.
Now, may I ask a question given even though I've never seen the show?
Please.
Is this restaurant only open and running when they're filming?
I hope people could hear me rubbing my hands over here. It's not a restaurant.
It's just a set?
Yeah.
Shit.
It was built in the old IKEA building
Of course.
in Burbank, California. And I don't think I get in trouble for telling people that because you could have seen it from the road. It had the big HK out front. Like we have pictures in front of it. But basically they
Sure.
took this old because they built a new IKEA, ironically, like kind of just across the street or like a couple streets over. So there
Sure.
was this giant empty building and they converted it into this whole set. But it's funny because there is a Hell's Kitchen restaurant obviously in Las Vegas and
Right.
it doesn't look the same. It doesn't look like they're trying to make it look like that one, but it's definitely the same style. So it looks as though this is the Hell's Kitchen in LA, but there is no Hell's Kitchen in
Sure.
LA.
Ah!
Yeah.
Huh.
So it has this full giant kitchen, full giant dining room.
And then do they just reuse that every season? Or
Well, I think they were making the show before that IKEA was abandoned or empty. So I think that they've built it on various sound stages over the years.
I mean, my dream, of course, is that they have built everything inside for the restaurant out of IKEA furniture that
That would
got
be
left
amazing.
behind.
It
Yeah.
feels like it would be a missed opportunity not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give us a deal. You won't have to lug it across the road.
Yeah.
We'll just set it up here.
Yeah. It was a fantastic experience though. I highly recommend if people are like, if you are in LA when they were filming again, like it was so fun. Like I recommend the whole thing. And the food
Sure.
again amazing, the cocktails were amazing, the service was amazing. Like every aspect of it was so fun. Such a joy. And yeah, were my facial expressions large? Sure they were. I give good face.
You were on camera, for
I
Christ's
give
sake.
good face. You know what I'm saying? They don't want someone coming in there not giving a little bit of a raised eyebrow. You know what I'm saying? What's that gonna do?
Not get you on camera, that's
Thank you
what.
very much.
Yeah.
Thank
Even
you
I
very
know
much.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
get that.
listen, what a time. What a time to be alive.
I love it. I also cannot believe the time difference
Yeah.
between that and when it finally came out.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, to be honest with you, I started thinking to myself, did it air and I missed it? I don't know. Like it was one of those things where it was like, did I watch it and forget? Like I was gaslighting myself. And then suddenly it was like, oh no, it's airing this week. I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. Cause yeah, it's just under 2 years. But I think they film a couple seasons at the same time. Like I think they film them back to back.
Oh, I
So
see.
I think they had been airing the one that they had shot just prior. And then this was the one they had banked.
God, can you imagine if we banked this show a year in advance?
I can't, to be honest with you. First of all, I don't know what that would look like or how that would go. And second of all, wow, what a
Oh,
mystery. Somebody was asking me at work about a case that we had covered. And I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. They're like, "But you covered it
Mhm.
on the show." I was like, "Yeah, not today."
Yeah.
If it was covered on the show at any point
Mhm.
prior to today, it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
It can't live in here. There's no space for it.
Oh, no, it's full Etch-a-Sketch brain.
Yep.
We do the show, we say goodbye, or I guess specifically we say goodnight, and you hear the little "shh, shh" of the Etch-a-Sketch as
Yep.
it goes, and then boom, done.
As it fades. Yeah, fades away.
Yeah. It's why when we do, like, the hoot at the end of the year and we're talking about, like, the different episodes we've done, it's why I send both of us a list of all the episodes we did that year because neither of us is gonna remember.
Yeah.
No way.
No way, Jose.
I barely remember what was the first one we did this year, and that was just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. Gun to my head, pull the trigger. I wouldn't know.
Oh, um, the cult,
Mother God.
there it is.
That was last week. Was it?
Nope, last week was House of Gucci.
Jesus Christ. That was earnest. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
look, in our defense, I mean, it's you just spend so much time in it, and then you do this part of it, and then once we're done recording, then it's like I make the promos, I slap it on YouTube, and then immediately I'm in the next one. So
Yeah.
I don't even have time.
Yeah, and I think when I'm working also, like, a big part of my job is that I have to be able to memorize things very quickly and then let them go,
Oh,
right?
sure.
So, I think my brain also is currently in the mode of, like, I have to memorize this and then say it, and then it can go away because then I have to start memorizing the next thing.
Of
So I
course.
think that that adds to it too, where it's like my brain is in this kind of prime, like, do I need this information? I don't. It's gone. Like, I think it's just even more so than
Sure.
when I'm
It
not working
feels
and doing the
helpful.
show. Yeah.
It's
Well,
nice
it's
that your brain is, like, doing you a solid.
and it gets trained because when I first start the
Sure.
season of the show, I'm rusty and the muscle of like memorization is not as toned. Like it takes a few weeks to kind of get into it. And then when I
Sure.
do get into it, then it's wild what this brain can do. It's impressive.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't memorize a thing.
Yeah.
Like, literally, earlier, um, I was looking up a town name, for the next episode that we're doing, and I can't remember what the name was, but I looked at the name, I read it, I said it out loud as I clicked a new tab, started typing the name, I typed a completely different name.
That makes me feel better because I've been pulling shit like that for a while, and that was why I was
Yep.
starting to think my brain's going.
Yeah, like, oh, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember the name of the town, but it was like Mariner Grave or something like that. And then I said it out loud as I clicked the tab. I'm like, okay, great. And I'm like, Mariner Grave. And I was like, Houston, Dallas, Bonini. Like I didn't misspell. I didn't have my fingers on the wrong keys. I just literally used completely different words. And then I looked at it and I went, weird, I'm not getting any hits. That's so strange. So then I go back to the other tab and I'm like, oh my God. Like that was a moment of fear. I was like, I maybe should step back for a minute because I'm like, my brain's trying to do too many things at once because no, that wasn't good.
No.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. I wish I could remember the two things because they were just so wildly different
Yeah.
that I was like, how do you get from one to the other? I don't know what my brain did. Wasn't
Well,
great, I'll tell you that.
we'll never know. We'll never know.
Nope, and I
The
can't
fact that
think
we're
about
even
it.
still alive, like, the fact that our brains keep us alive given the, like, workloads that we both pull onto ourselves is amazing.
Oh, it's crazy making.
Yeah.
It's insanity when 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 it's just, like, the simplest thing of, like, "Oh god, I don't have time to do that. I'll do that tomorrow." And then you're like, "I can't tomorrow because 'cause I've got all of these things." And then it's like, "Well, maybe I can the next day." No. Okay, if I skip lunch that day I could squeeze it there. And like tonight, I was like, I've got some things to do before we record. I'm like, I'll do those. And then I was like, oh, my husband was dealing with dinner and the kids. And he's like, do you want me to make you some? And I was like, no, I'll have something later. And then all of a sudden I was like, shit, we're recording in less than an hour. It's going to take us like 5 hours or something. So
Yeah.
like, I need to have something to eat or I'm screwed. And all of a sudden it'll be 2 a.m. and I'm going to bed and I'm starving, but I can't eat because then I won't be able to sleep. So I'm like, no, just make yourself something. So I made myself something quick and then I ate it. And then, so I turned to him and he's like, okay, you feel better now, right? Because you had dinner, you're ready to go. And I just went, well, now I'm too full and my tummy hurts. It's like, win, lady. Just put the spoon down.
I get it. I
Get
get
in
it.
there to record. And then I'm like, okay, I've got to hit the can. We'll come in, we'll record. And I get a text from Lauren that's like, did you send me the thing so we can record? And I went, I did not.
Listen.
But if you'd asked me 3 days ago, did I send that? I would have been like, of course I did. As soon as I was finished it, I sent it.
Yeah.
Not even in my drafts. Not even.
Well, listen, I have to say along those lines. Now, this is also in connection with another announcement that happened this week. I've soft launched my boyfriend on the internet. We're in the midst of a soft launch.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
You heard it here first, folks. Well, did you? No, I guess Patreon did. I talked about this on Patreon last week. I want to say this week.
What day of the week is it?
I have no idea. Truly don't. Friday? Monday? Gun to my head, pull the trigger. I don't know. I think it's Friday.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know.
It is. Yeah, I think it was this week. Anyway, all of this is to say is that he got a real taste. He got a real taste of what you're talking about, or along the same lines, but through my ADHD lens. So he's trying to help me, right? And he goes, "What do you have to get done in the next few hours?" You know,
Sure.
great. He's like, "Let's make a list." It's like, great. So I listed like 4 things, and then he's like, "Cool, we got a list." And I was like, "Great, this is very helpful." And then he watched me do anything but that list for like a good 45 minutes. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, don't want to give you a note, but just wanted to point out that you gave me a solid list of things that are attainable and achievable.
Yeah.
And you're not doing any of them." And I was like, "Cool. Yeah, I got to tell you this story." And he's like, "Do you? Is it on the list?" I was like,
This is
"No.
how we work.
This is how we work." But it's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. It was exactly the same thing that you're saying, where it's like you think you start one thing, you go over and do 2 others, then you're back to the first thing, then you're off of that. Then it's all of a sudden I'm down a rabbit hole about, what's going on with Lark Voorhees. You know what I mean? Like it's like is she okay? I don't know. But
It is nice to check in every once
it's
in a while.
nice to check in. And again, it's like sometimes those things, this is the ADHD brain for me. It's like sometimes those things become so paramount that I can't get past it.
The
I can't get to the
hyperfixation.
list.
No,
The
because you're
hyperfixation.
so focused
Yeah.
on this. And if you don't do this right this second, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh
But
my
I'll tell you
God.
this. Then he said this to me and I was like, all right, you know what happened? I focused. I got the list done in like 3 minutes. It was so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was so fast. And that always happens to me. Like, it's like literally I will spend hours
Yeah.
trying to get started. And then when I finally do it, it's like, God, that was quick.
Yeah. Along those lines, the other day we recorded, you and I, during the day.
Yes.
Because we did some stuff like afternoon early enough. And there was something I was supposed to do that day. I think I was supposed to call and make an appointment, which I now realize I still have not. Anyhow, my husband asked me, he was like, you had all that time before that record to make that appointment. Did you do it? And I went, well, no. And he's like, what do you mean? Well, no. And I said, well, I had to prep for the record. And he's like, but you already had everything done. Like you didn't have to prep anything. And I went, mentally, if I have an appointment at 4 p.m., count me out for the day because I'm going to spend from the second I wake up until the moment I have to leave the house calculating what I'm wearing, what's the weather, what's parking like, where do I think I'm going to park, how much in advance should I eat so that I'm not like a little bit gassy while I'm there, depending on what the appointment is, who knows? Like just so many things. And then also stressing about like whatever the appointment is, to all of these things. And then once it's done, I'm so tired
Yeah.
from all of that that I'm done. So a 4 p.m. appointment has fucked me for the day.
Oh God, yeah. I get that.
And so it's like, this is it. And like today, I had to we had a school game, like basketball game after school. So I had to be at the school to pick up the children to get them to the other school, which requires a math level that you don't think you're like, well, the game's at 4, school's out at 3:30, be there at 3:30. Do I want a parking spot? If I do, that means I've got to be there by 3 o'clock. And then I got to sit around and wait for so long, which means I have to leave my house like
Mhm.
10, 15 minutes before that, depending on the road conditions, which I also have to look into before that. I have to make sure I pee before that. I have to make sure that I'm changed into outdoor pants instead of the indoor pants that I prefer to wear all the time. Should I put a bra on? I am going out in public in a space with children. I'll put a bra on. So it's like all these things. And so it's like I spend all day thinking about that.
Yeah.
And a 4 p.m., 1 hour long basketball game suddenly took 9 hours for me.
Oh God, yeah.
And
I
so
think
it's
that's
just,
I think that's anxiety.
oh, yeah. Yeah, I did, I took an online quiz
Oh, good.
recently.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
and,
suggested that to you
I
before.
oh, yeah. I think it was specifically, an ADHD quiz, but I'm just seeing I took a couple screenshots of some things they said to me.
Sure.
It was how it was worded. Because it would be, "Oh, you have a lot of signs of emotional hyperarousal." I was like, "Ah, yeah, emotional tunnel vision, hyperfocus, understood. Oh, ooh, it sounds like you have rejection sensitive dysphoria." Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, yeah, I guess I do." And it was just everything they said. They were like, "Ooh, sounds to us like that's how they would put it with everything." And they were like, "Ooh, you got a lot of those ADHD symptoms." I was like, "Yeah, that's why I said yes to the quiz." Because
That's why I'm here.
I just assumed.
That's why I'm
So
here.
yeah, yeah. This is how I've always been.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I
like,
know
"Oh,
that.
do you wanna do this thing at 5?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna have to hang out at home until then because I can't do anything else."
One of the biggest nightmares in my life is when it's a
Yeah.
Monday and they're like, "You have an audition on Friday." And I'm like, "Motherfucker," because then that means that I can't stop
Oh,
thinking about it. I can't rest. I can't regulate until it's over.
sure. So you want as little time as possible.
Absolutely. Let me get in and get out. If a day's notice, a dream.
Isn't that interesting?
In
Whereas
comparison, it's still hard,
sure.
but in comparison to
Oh,
like it
sure.
being spread out like that, kill me.
Oh, see, if I'm told on a Monday that I have an appointment on the Friday,
Mhm.
every once in a while throughout the day for the next several days, I'll think of like things I have to think of in advance, but I make sure my main focus for that day. I basically am like, well, I better do everything in the next few days because I've got that write-off day. Can't
Yeah,
do anything.
that makes sense.
Just a nightmare. Like
Well,
it's
listen, before you speaking of nightmares,
yeah.
our subject matter for this week. Oh, I just
Yeah.
hiccuped. But before I get to that, what you drinking over there?
Oh, I'm just doing a Folk and a water because I'm
Yep.
barely alive.
Where am I? Oh, I got a Diet Coke in front of me and a protein shake because I've gotten to the point now that I'm running out of time to eat. So there you go. That's where
Yeah.
we're at. But it is fruity cereal flavored. Tastes like Fruity Pebbles. It's a bit of a dream for me.
That's
Um,
nice.
it's nice. It's nice.
That's how you're gonna get me to have a protein shake is if you make it taste like
Apparently, as
cereal.
humans, we need a lot more protein than we're eating. Apparently, it's a thing.
No kidding.
Yeah, that and fiber.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
and water, but that's also a separate battle. But anyway, I
Sure.
recommend this one. It's delicious. They're not paying us. I didn't intend to even have this. I was just like, oh, I need something in this. I have no time. Here we go.
I would love for like a protein shake people to be like, hey, busy true crime lady on the go? Like,
Also
yeah.
someone who likes the taste of nostalgic children's cereals from the 90s?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We're talking, of course, Sister Wives, folks. That's what this episode's about. Couldn't be more excited. I dipped in and out of that series over the years. So
Yeah.
I have a knowledge of who they all are, the dynamics, etc.
Sure.
I watched early on pretty religiously. Don't
Yep.
pardon the pun.
Thank
Fell off the
you.
wagon. Come back in one or two every so often, but I'm very excited to hear Christy's take on all of this. And if you're not familiar, I'll get you up to speed right now. Sister Wives is a reality show that follows misogynistic narcissist Kody Brown as he navigates life with his 4 wives and 18 children. Based on that line alone, you can probably tell that Christy is not a fan of Kody's. Why would she be? He truly believes that he is God's gift to women, and he is so cringy that he's basically a walking ick. So stay tuned as Christy gives us a rundown of the Browns' family history, including some background on each of the wives, the infamous catfish scandal, and every moment when Kody Brown proves that he is the literal worst.
To be fair, we won't have time to get to every moment,
I was going to say,
but I too watched the show from the beginning because I was just fascinated of how's it going to work? Like, how on earth do they make it work? Um, but because of him, I had to let go.
yeah,
I just could not stand him anymore, and just how arrogant he is, and his smirk, and every time he smiles thinking he's the fucking greatest thing on the planet. I almost, for dramatic effect, lifted my notes and ripped them in half. Like, that's what I was going to do, but we would have needed to pause because the idea of me holding up two pieces to try and piece it together to read is ridiculous. But
well, it would be harder for you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But the point is, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to hide it in this episode.
I think you've put it out pretty clearly what your feelings are.
I can't imagine anyone, with exception to Robyn, uh, being like, he's a good man. Like, I can't
Yeah,
foresee anyone being like on his side.
no.
But if you are, give me about an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and then
Let us see how you feel by the end of this.
see how it settles with you. So off the top, I'm going to give you a disclaimer,
Beautiful.
a reminder that they will just be brief, but this episode will contain very brief mentions of suicide, pregnancy loss, and emotional abuse. So, trigger warning for those who need it. Simply put, polygamy is when there's more than two spouses involved in a marriage. I love that I already don't know how to pronounce this. I believe it's polygyny. Polygyny, I believe, is specifically when a man has more than one wife at the same time, which, I'll be honest, I thought that was polygamy. No,
Yeah,
polygamy is the whole overarching.
got it.
Polyandry is when a woman has more than one husband, specifically at the same time.
Right.
According to a 2008 article in Psychology Today, 83% of traditional societies practiced polygamy, while 16% practiced monogamy, and less than 0.5% practiced polyandry. The article then was like, evolutionarily speaking, what's wrong with polyandry? Dear listeners, the problem is fucking nothing. It was a misogynistic article that was like, obviously, more wives for one man is better. Fuck off. Whoever wrote
Right.
that, absolutely fuck off. So, it's also like the percentages. I was like, yeah, I'll bring that up. And then I was like, I'm not going to elaborate further on it because I was so angry at the article. So, according to the Pew Research Center, about 2% of the world's population practice polygamy. It is most common in sub Saharan Africa. Uh, Polyandry is most common in India and Nepal.
Hmm.
It has been criminalized in the United States since 1882. However, the punishment for polygamy is usually like a small fine and not any jail time.
Right.
And while there are apparently a lot of reality shows focusing on polygamous families, today we are looking at Sister Wives, which first aired on TLC in September 2010. I do believe they were the first polygamous to like do the reality show, but I
Right.
could be wrong. So, Sister Wives follows Kody Wynn Brown, who was born January 17th, 1969, in Lovell, Wyoming. Cody's parents, William and Janelle, started out monogamous, but when Kody was about 19 or 20, his father started practicing polygamy. When Kody returned home from a church mission in the late 80s, Kody discovered his father had married a second wife named Bobby. There's a quote from Kody about that. He said, quote, "My mother had written me dozens of letters about how wonderful her sister wife was. So although I had never met my new mom, I was ready to accept her completely. She deserved my respect and my love simply because my father had married her." I only bring up this quote to show you that Kody very clearly saw his father's other wives as his moms. Nothing wrong with that. I just want you to put a pin in that for a sec.
Okay.
In October 1992, William added a third wife named Cheryl. She was a mother of two whose first husband died 20 years prior. In 1975, Cheryl married a widower, but they divorced several years later. And then she ended up being the third wife for Cody's dad. So, to avoid any confusion, the family were members of the fundamentalist Mormon faith. Unlike the LDS Mormons who abandoned polygamy in 1890, some fundamentalist Mormons believe that plural marriage is necessary to reach the highest level of heaven. Not all of them, just some of them. But after Cody's father converted to the faith, Kody started attending their church where he met Mary Carolyn Barber, born January 16th, 1971, in California. After Mary's family moved to Utah, her father decided to take a second wife. In total, Mary's father had 5 wives and 26 or 27 children. So it's not a surprise that Mary said she believed that plural marriage was her destiny. Mary first saw Kody at church when she was 18, which would have made him about 20 at the time. A year later, one of Cody's sisters officially introduced them. Kody later said, quote, "Mary was so cute and sweet when I met her that I had a hard time suppressing my hopelessly romantic nature. She had a remarkable purity about her." A remarkable purity. Barf.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Kody officially converted to the fundamentalist Mormon faith and he started his courtship with Mary in October 1989. He proposed 2 months later and they married 4 months after that in April 1990. The couple planned to have 8 children, but after some infertility struggles, including a pregnancy loss, they decided to stop after having their child Leon in July 1995. Leon came out as transgender in 2022, and from the best I can tell, they no longer have a relationship with their father because of it. Kody said he was, and this is a quote, disgusted by Leon's transition. And honestly, I hope the man rots because a parent's main job is to create a safe support system for their child. Leon secretly married their partner in the fall of 2022. And while I know that Leon will never hear this, I want them to know that as a mother, I am very proud of them for choosing themselves over their shitty family members. It can't have been an easy process. And hope that they are surrounded by a safe and supportive family, whether that includes biological family or not. So, during the first year they were married, Kody and Mary entered into their first courtship to bring in a second wife. Kody and Mary would have been 22 and 20, respectively, at the time. They were introduced to a girl at a church gathering. Mary said they became close friends right away, which Mary took as a sign that she and Kody were meant to marry this girl. A quote from Mary about it, quote, "Though sometimes I got jealous of the afternoons she and Kody went off on their own to develop their relationship, I did my best to deal with those feelings maturely. I felt confident the three of us had a wonderful future together, and I was certain that while she would make a great wife to Kody, she would remain one of my best friends." The afternoons they went off to develop their relationship creeps me out. But I don't know what happened between them and this person, but the courtship ended. Mary said, quote, "We may have mistaken a crush for love. Nevertheless, I felt personally betrayed. I had lost one of my closest friends, a woman I imagined would have been a perfect sister wife." According to one of Kody's wives, who will come in to our story shortly, the courtship between them and this person had been prolonged, like dragged out more than what it would have been in the usual sense. Again, they usually propose and then like within a month, married, right? But this was prolonged. And why? Quote, "Kody and Mary wanted to wait for the girl they were courting to turn 18 before their engagement became official."
Oh, wow.
Meaning the girl they were courting was at the very most 17 years old. And I know that's not that far off from 20 or 22, but it's far enough for also constantly saying a woman. And it's like, that's a 17-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Although the way they say it, I don't know how long they prolonged it. Was it for sure a 17-year-old? Again,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, I'm not going to think about it. But don't worry about the Browns. They did eventually find their second wife because, according to Kody, quote, "I've adopted a faith that embraces that lifestyle. In fact, it recommends it and likes to reward good behavior. So if you're good with one marriage, they figure you'll be good with two." So glad it works out for him. Janelle Shriver was born May 6, 1969. She came from a long line of Mormons who did not practice polygamy. It goes without saying, of course, not all Mormons are polygamous. So Janelle said she hadn't even heard of polygamy until she met Mary and Kody. In December 1988, Janelle married Adam Barber, Mary's brother.
Whoa.
The couple divorced 2 years later, and 2 years after that, it was suggested that Janelle become Kody's second wife. Now, of course, it is illegal to be legally married to multiple people at the same time. So instead of a legal wedding, Janelle and Kody had what they called a spiritual wedding in January 1993, 2 weeks after their first date. Since
Wow.
they were trying to live on the down low, whenever they would go out in public together, the three of them, Kody would tell people that Mary was his wife and Janelle was his sister. Which was true,
Oh.
because 3 months before before Kody and Janelle's spiritual marriage, Janelle's mother, Cheryl, spiritually married Kody's father, William, becoming his third wife. And since Kody already made that comment that he considered all of his father's wives to be his mother, I guess that means Kody and Janelle were kind of step siblings when they got married.
Wowzer.
Yeah. So Kody said that while he found Janelle extremely attractive, he felt their relationship was more spiritually and intellectually compatible. Kody and Janelle would have 6 children together, including Logan in May 1994, Madison in November 1995, Hunter in February 1997, Garrison in October 1998, Gabriel in January 2001, and Savannah in December 2004. So while Janelle was being courted by Kody in 1992, and she officially joined the family in 1993, Kody's third wife actually met the family before Janelle ever did. In the
Oh,
same year as his marriage to Mary, Kody was chaperoning a youth wilderness trek when he met one of the participants, 18-year-old Christine Ruth Allred. She was born April 18th, 1972. While Kody was only 3 years older than Christine, the fact that he was a chaperone, or at the very least in a position of power when he met Christine, makes me concerned he may have groomed her. According to the family tree, Christine and Kody are fourth cousins.
okay.
Christine's parents were practicing polygamists. In fact, Christine was considered polygamy royalty because her grandfather was the leader of the Mormon fundamentalist group, the Apostolic United Brethren. Murderous family. Side note.
Ba-da-ba-boom.
Christine's uncle, Ervil LeBaron, had 13 wives and 51 children. He believed he was some sort of prophet, so he believed he needed to kill any religious leader who might become his rival. LeBaron put out hits on those he deemed a threat, including Christine's grandfather, Rulon Allred. LeBaron even had some of his wives help with the murders, even though several of his wives were underage at the time. Ervil LeBaron was eventually convicted of murdering 25 people. He was sentenced to life in prison and a year later took his own life at the age of 56. So Christine's family is very well known in polygamy circles, so it's
Right.
not a surprise that Christine admits she was always interested in a plural family. She said, quote, "I only ever wanted to be a third wife. I never wanted to be first at all. I only ever wanted to be a third because it sounded the easiest." Respect, lady. She also said, quote, "I wanted the family. I didn't just want the man." So she meets Kody in 1990 when she's about 18, he's about 21. They remained friends for a few years before the courtship was ever even considered. Kody said, quote, "Looking back, I hate myself for the thoughts I had at the moment, but the sight of this chubby girl in my car devouring chili cheese nachos for breakfast put the brakes on our relationship. It brought out the most superficial and shallowest part of me. I still liked her. In fact, I liked her very much, but the nacho experience cooled my attraction a little. Well, a lot." To be clear, that quote was from the memoir that Kody wrote with his wives.
Hauser.
Yeah. It is, of course, not the last time that Kody would publicly admit to not being attracted to Christine. It seemed he would tell her that anytime he was angry with her, which is gross to ever say it to your wife to begin with, but
Yep.
especially so publicly. It just feels like Kody, the ultimate hurtful thing to say uh, is that you're not attracted to someone. So he uses it as a punishment, which I'll say it, straight up emotional abuse.
Oh God,
It
yeah.
is what it is. Now, remember when I said that Mary and Kody were courting that underage girl before Kody and married Janelle? Well, Christine was around for that entire thing. And she said the girl was so young that Kody and Mary's decision to court her outright turned Christine off ever wanting to join their family to begin with.
Whoa.
And it wasn't until a few years later, when Christine's parents were going through a divorce, that Kody and Christine started getting closer and he was like really there for her. And super supportive. And that's what made her go, okay, yeah, I could be with them, I guess, which I find fascinating. Kody and Christine officially started their courtship in February 1994. Their first date was on Valentine's Day, and if that wasn't romantic enough, that was the same day Kody proposed
The day
on
of their first date.
on their first date.
Good Lord.
The couple was married a month later in March 1994. Kody and Christine would have 6 children together, including Aspen in March 1995, McKelty in June 1996, Peyton in August 1998, Gwendolyn in October 2001, Isabel in June 2003, and Truly in April 2010. And just when you think that Kody might be done expanding his plural family, he decides to bring in a 4th wife, which was the premise of the Sister Wives series when it first aired. Bringing in the 4th wife was the beginning of the show and the beginning of the end for the Brown family.
Yeah.
And while that may seem incredibly dramatic to say, it's not nearly as dramatic as Robyn, the 4th wife. Yeah, I'm also not kind about Robyn in this episode. So if you're a fan, buckle up. So, Robyn Alice Sullivan was born October 9th, 1978. She claims she was raised in a polygamous family in southern Utah and that her mother was her father's second wife. That does not appear completely accurate. The best I can tell is that her mother, Alice, allegedly started an affair with a man named Paul Sullivan. Alice and Paul's Alice and Paul's first wife lived in separate states, and he would apparently just go back and forth between the families, which is not uncommon in a polygamous situation. But Robyn says they were polygamists. Maybe they were. It just seems more like Paul's first family didn't know about Alice and his other family until Sister Wives aired decades later.
Oh, wow.
I could be wrong. The family is very private about everything, so it is tough to say, but that is absolutely the vibe that comes across. So, in June 1999, Robyn married David Jessup. According to a family tree, David was Christine's first cousin and Kody's third cousin.
Wowzer.
Robyn and David had 3 children. David, who goes by Dayton, in January 2000, Aurora in June 2002, and Brianna in October 2005. David filed for divorce in April 2007, although Robyn later claimed that she was the one who decided to divorce him because he was abusive. But those claims appear to have been false. In season 17 of Sister Wives, Robyn said she had to go through the church to be released from her first marriage. But according to her ex-husband's family, Robyn refused to get married in a church at all. Therefore, the church would have no authority over the wedding or the marriage ending. Robyn was also pregnant at the time of the wedding, which, no shade, but it meant the church wouldn't have accepted them getting married there anyway.
Right.
So since the church was not involved in the wedding, that means the church had no part of the separation. I don't have time to get into all the times that Robyn was caught lying about something on the show. I'm sure I'll mention a few more before this episode is done. But Robyn and David went through some sort of counseling with different members of the church, but according to David's family, David chose to leave Robyn, not the other way around. David and Robyn's divorce was finalized in 2009, and David eventually stopped seeing the children and gave up his parental rights. David later remarried and had 4 more children. In January 2018, he was charged with partner or family member assault causing bodily injury. He spent 4 days in jail before his charge was downgraded to disorderly conduct. So basically, he then just paid some fines.
Wonderful.
So Kody and Robyn meet at church in the summer of 2009. Kody claims that Mary met Robyn and practically begged Kody to bring Robyn into the family. I do not buy that for a second. I think that Kody was immediately attracted to Robyn and was anxious to have a new wife in the family since his three wives at the time were essentially done having his children, with exception to Christine, who was pregnant at the time of Kody and Robyn's courtship. I could be wrong. It just feels like Kody was interested in bringing in a younger wife to the family. She was about 9 years younger than Kody. Kody also pursued his courtship with Christine when Janelle was pregnant with his first child. And then Kody and Christine uh, were married about 2 months before Janelle gave birth. And then Kody pursued Robyn when Christine was pregnant and then married Robyn a month after Christine gave birth. It just feels like there's some sort of significance to the timing that it's if one wife is knocked up, he better go find himself another one. Like, it's the fact that he did it twice, it just feels weird to me. I could be
Yeah.
reading too much into it. But it was obvious from the start that Kody was attracted to Robyn. I mean, at one point, he described her as a diesel jeans model. In one interview, Kody tried to claim that when he first met Robyn, he shuddered and, quote, actually had an ick factor. He claimed his issue was that she was divorced and had children, which Kody said is a lot for a man to deal with. He also once said he had reservations about getting involved with her because, quote, he didn't want to have to work really hard in a relationship.
Wonderful.
After hearing that, I'm not surprised how this story turns out, but I won't spoil it for the rest of the class.
Of
Also,
course.
uh, to be clear, is it a lot for a man to date a divorcee who has 3 children? Or is it a lot for a woman to date a man who has 3 wives and, like, 13 children?
Yeah, great point.
I mean, anyhow. So Kody and Robyn meet in the summer of 2009. They get spiritually married in May 2010. It was immediately clear to anyone who watched even an episode of Sister Wives that Robyn was Kody's favorite. Not only did they have a very large, very expensive wedding, but Kody helped with the planning, including personally picking out Robyn's wedding dress. While this detail may seem insignificant, it greatly upset all 3 of Kody's other wives, especially Christine, because his wedding to Christine, Kody couldn't bother to help at all in any way. When it was said he didn't do anything for the wedding, Kody pointed out how difficult it was for him to get that day off from work.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, bud. That's tough. Maybe plan your wedding more than a month out. Anyhow, the worst part is Kody made the reveal of him picking out Robyn's dress this huge deal on the show. Specifically, in the 6th episode of the show, Kody proudly says, quote, I've got a bomb I'm dropping today. And he's like all smirky and, oh, he's just slimy and I can't stand him. And he's just so proud of himself and this fucking arrogant smirk on his face, which he is known for. Although maybe more people know Kody for his obvious raccoon eye tan lines. She's not getting any nicer in this episode, folks.
I love it. Never change.
Because I'm just so fucking over him. So Kody drops this truth bomb, absolutely expecting to be praised by his wives. But in the moment, you can see how hurt Christine is in the reveal. Kody gets his back up and says, quote, I think it's important. I don't think it's fair that I not be involved in it. Again, he didn't want to be involved in arrangements with any of his first 3 marriages, or weddings, I should say. Seeing how upset Christine got, Robyn then claims she told Kody not to tell anyone about his involvement, and then Robyn starts to cry because that's what she does. And I'm not mocking anybody for being emotional. I cry at the drop of a hat, both literally and physically. But I'm just saying, anyone who watches the show knows that Robyn has a history of crocodile tears. Fans refer to her as Sobbin' Robyn.
Wow.
And there are parts of like, there's a specifically a Sister Wives wiki. Someone has gone through and changed her name to Sobbin instead of Robyn,
Wow.
like everywhere. And I couldn't be uh, happier about it. So Christine's upset. The other wives just kind of seem angry. And Kody completely shuts down emotionally because this is what he does when he's caught doing something wrong. He gets super defensive, then he looks to the ground and acts like he's the victim. Kody then looks down and he says, quote, "I'm sitting here feeling almost numb." And he just goes silent, refuses to speak to anybody, refuses to respond to anything. Then Christine, who was so upset about this whole thing, she had walked off and had to come back and they had to film the rest of it days later because she couldn't handle it, nor should she have had to. Um, she then tells Kody he just needs to step up. I think in that moment, she was just like, look, you can be that way with her. You have to be that way with all of us. That's how it fucking works. Kody, who clearly relishes in being the leader in the family, completely disengages. And Christine, again, tells him he needs to step up. Kody's not responding to her at all. So Christine then says that she also has to step up. And that's when Kody finally says, quote, "All right, please be forgiving." Christine, I want to wrap you in a warm blanket. You didn't need to offer any changes to that man. He hurt you by making more of an effort with his newest wife than he ever did with you. You are allowed to feel hurt because what he did was shitty, and then he shut down like a fucking child until you agreed that you also had to work on being better. So it's like he wouldn't acknowledge her in any way until she was like, I'm also not good. So we're the same because I can't fucking stand this man. So, Christine, you did nothing wrong. He's an emotionally immature man child and he never deserved you. Again, I'm not going to get nicer in this because Kody Brown irks me in a way that I can't fully put into words, but I'm going to try over the rest of the episode. I'm really going to try. Um, his absolute arrogance and the way he mistreats not only his wives, but also his children is maddening to watch. It is the reason that I stopped watching the show. That man, I can't stand him. So Cody's fourth wedding was larger and more extravagant than his first three. Of course, this annoyed the other three wives. But to make matters worse, his fourth honeymoon was also much larger than his other three. With Mary, they spent a few days in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. With Janelle, they went on some sort of road trip, which Kody described as, quote, "We had no plan. We just drove and drove, stopping wherever we felt like stopping." Christine's honeymoon was described as, quote, "a drive through the sticks of Montana." And while those are all perfectly lovely honeymoons, with Robyn, Kody took her on an 11-day trip to San Diego where they planned out so many touristy things. And it's like, you didn't bother to plan any of your other honeymoons, but you planned that one. Not to mention 11 days? Christine gave birth to Cody's most recent child about 4 or 5 weeks before that. But it was cool to go away for 11 days? The length of the trip was what caused the most friction with the other wives. Robyn said, here's a direct quote from Robyn. "Sometimes I worried that it seemed as if I was getting preferential treatment. I got the big wedding followed by a long honeymoon. However, the honeymoon was both necessary and special to me. I never asked Kody for it, but he must have had a sixth sense that it was something important for us. Since we believe in remaining chaste before marriage. The honeymoon ushers in a new part of our relationship. Those days were especially important to me because of the hardships I had been through in my previous marriage. Robyn, hun. Kody's first 3 wives all waited until their wedding day before they even kissed him for the first time. Saying that you needed 11 days because you had never been intimate with him before is absolute fucking bullshit. You had 3 children before you met him. The jig is up. We know you aren't a virgin, and that's okay. But to act like you needed more time than his previous wives, 2 of which were virgins when they were intimate with him the first time, maybe they needed extra time with intimacy, but again, yeah, not only am I going to get fired up about Kody in this episode, I'll occasionally throw in some anger about Robyn. Partially because I don't know what to think about her. She came across as very manipulative on the show, but that could just be done to add drama. But what I will say is that someone who knew Robyn before she joined the Brown family once said, and I quote, Robyn never showed interest in being a plural wife, but she really wanted to be a reality star.
Interesting.
So did Robyn marry Kody to be on TV? It's tough to say. What is clear as day is that Robyn is absolutely Kody's favorite, and I will prove it right after this break.
Listen, you heard the lady. Grab another drink, hit the can, and we're going to be right back with more on the Sister Wives episode of True Crime and Cocktails. All right, clap 2 on 3. 1, 2, 3. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're, of course, discussing Sister Wives. Before the break, Christy was getting into the intricacies of the Sob and Robyn situation. What's next?
Yeah. Look, if you think I'm not completely charmed by whoever started calling her Sob and Robyn, I am. I just absolutely am. She cries when it's beneficial to her. There, I've said it. We all know it. So, we're going to get into all the ways that Kody has proven that Robyn is his favorite. Is this true crime? No. Is this a scandal? In the Sister Wives universe, yes. Otherwise, probably not. Why am I mentioning it? Because it's fascinating.
Please.
And that's why. And it's because really, it's the only reason people kept watching the show. I guarantee it. So, starting with the fact that Kody was willing to break a rule when courting Robyn. The main rule is there is to be no physical intimacy before the wedding, not even a kiss. And this specifically goes when the man is already married to one of the wives.
Right.
If it's the first wife, you could probably get away with it. If it's the second wife, he's already technically married, so that's a big no-no.
Right.
Kody outright kissed Robyn when he proposed to her.
Wowzer.
And then there was the kiss heard round the world. The reality show world, still.
Yes.
So a month before Kody and Robyn's wedding, Christine is in the hospital being induced because she was like a week past her due date. Kody leaves the hospital because once you get induced, it's going to be coming soon. So he leaves. He's going to pick up some clothes. Goes to Robyn's house, which is his go-to for always. Even if he doesn't have stuff there, he's going to go there first. Christine calls him and says, hey, guess what? My water broke. You better hurry. Because she had a history of like water breaks, baby comes like right away. So she was like, you better hurry. Kody leaves the house. Robyn follows after him. And of course, the camera crew, who are seasoned professionals, they follow them and open the door, which Robyn had closed on them, and it catches Kody and Robyn, I'll say it, canoodling.
Thank you.
Kody then starts walking to his car, which is parked out on the street, and he says, quote, "I've got a wife in labor. I'm not going to sit here kissing my girlfriend. It's just awkward." But before he gets to the car, he turns around, goes all the way back to Robyn, and full kisses her in front of the camera, then goes to the car. "Sir, your wife is in labor. Get to the goddamn hospital." Robyn is the fourth wife, so Kody absolutely knows what is and what is not appropriate during a courtship.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I'm just convinced that Kody just truly in his soul believes that Robyn was the absolute hottest woman he had ever seen. And he was just trying to show off that that was his girlfriend. It's that simple. The man's ego is unstoppable. Then there's the issue of Kody's ring. Now, as typical in weddings, when Kody and Mary were married in 1990, Mary gave Kody a ring that Kody wore throughout his weddings to 2 other women. But when Kody went to marry Robyn in 2010, suddenly the ring was gone.
Oh my Lord.
There was a lot of drama as to how the story came out publicly, but it turns out after meeting Robyn, Kody told Mary he got rid of the ring because he didn't think it was fair that Mary had a claim to him. Yeah, his only legal wife? Yeah. Yeah, that's shocking. Mary was then like, "Okay, fair, I guess. Can I have the ring back, please?" Because it meant something to her. So she's like, "I'll just keep it. I'll hold on to it." Kody says, "Sorry, it's too late." He had it melted down, which feels extreme to me.
Yeah.
You don't want to wear it? Fine. Put it in a jewelry box, a shoe box, a fucking sock drawer, whatever. Having it melted down sends a clear message to me.
Yeah.
Mary said, quote, "That was a symbol, a sign of our marriage and our commitment. He melted it down. Who's to say he didn't just melt down our entire relationship in that moment? Symbolically, that's what he did to me. It's a very, very painful situation." And now it's time for me to wrap Mary in a warm blanket and tell her that Kody is a piece of shit and he never deserved her. And Kody had 0 problems wearing Mary's ring through 3 separate wives and 20 years of marriage. But the second Robyn came on the scene, he decides it's no longer fair to his new wife to wear a ring from his first wife. This guy thinks the entire world is gullible enough to believe his bullshit. Uh, but then it this whole thing about the ring melting down comes out and it's dramatic. And Robyn says, "Oh, well, that had nothing to do with her. It wasn't because of her. Kody melted down the ring long before she ever met the family." And look, I'm not saying that Robyn told Kody to get rid of the ring, or that she was personally responsible in any way. I think Kody wanted to show Robyn that he specifically chose her over the other wives, and that's why he did it. But of course, Robyn gets defensive and she lies and she says the ring was gone years before her. How do I know that's a lie? Because I watched the show, and during the date night where Kody officially proposes, which is briefly seen in both of the first 2 episodes of the show, Kody is wearing the fucking ring.
There it is.
Do you know what we call that, Robyn? Receipts. And of course, this would all lead to Robyn crying again, because when she is caught doing something shitty, or if she's ever blamed for anything, even when they have footage of her doing something wrong, she cries to make herself appear the victim. And in 2024, I've got no time for manipulative bullshit. Now, I could get into even more proof that Robyn is Kody's favorite wife. We don't have time to get into everything because there's a lot. But there's also the fact that when the family was living in Vegas, he referred to the four houses that they had as Mary's house, Janelle's house, Christine's house, and his house. So there's that, which, piece of shit man.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think, and listen, I'll save most of this till the end, but
Sure.
as someone who's come in and out of watching the show,
Yeah.
and as you're laying all this out to me, it really feels to me like he's just really into Robyn. Like,
Yes.
like it's so interesting to me because he's created this whole thing himself. He's
Mm-hmm.
created this entire situation himself.
Yep.
And then it feels like if he really got his way, he would kind of just want to be with her.
Oh, 1,000%. I truly believe he did the plural marriage thing. The wives all had kids. And then he was like, God, is this it?
Yeah.
Is this just it for life? Because two of his wives were done having kids. One was in the middle of having one and said, then that's it for her. And then it was like, okay. And then what? We just continue on. And then he meets Robyn and he's like, wait a minute. I can start again. I can have 80 kids.
Right.
And I think that's what he was like, I'm going to show her so much favor over the other ones that he crumbled all of his relationships because of it.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Oh, yeah, he's disgusting. But, and I'll never be nice to him. So, then there was the time when Kody was supposed to spend 2 nights at Christine's house because he alternated where he would spend the nights so that it was fair to the wives and the children. Because, of course, while he's staying at that house, he would then hang out more with those children, kind of one-on-one. It was the kind of only time they got with him without having all the siblings around. Well, he's supposed to be at Christine's for 2 nights. The first night, instead of having a quiet dinner with just Christine and their 6 children, Kody decides, you know what? Kind of feeling like going out. Let's take out the whole family. So he took out his entire family for dinner and didn't even sit with Christine's kids. And then that night after they went out for dinner, Robyn fucking showed up at Christine's house and wouldn't leave until Kody had a talk with her in the backyard and kissed her goodnight. It's not your night, Robyn. Take a hike. And then it gets worse because the second night, which again is supposed to be Kody spending time with Christine and their children alone, Robyn, who was pregnant at this time, invites everyone to her house and announces the gender of her baby. Really, bitch? On another wife's night? You couldn't wait a day or two till it was your turn? I'll say it. Robyn deserves him. They deserve each other. They've created the entire mess of what they are now.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into. And I'll, at some point, I'll stop complaining about him. No, I never will. Look, my temper is causing me to get ahead of myself. One final thing I'm going to say about the Robyn is my favorite category. As a recap, Kody legally married Mary in 1990. Then spiritually married Janelle in 1993, Christine in 1994, and Robyn in 2010. Few years go by, and Kody asks Mary if they can divorce so he could legally marry Robyn because he wanted Robyn's children to go on his insurance and he wanted to legally adopt them.
Wow.
This, of course, was after the whole ring incident. So it feels like he's just kicking Mary while she's down. And Mary agrees to it because she's always quick to say yes to whatever Kody says would be best for the family. They legally divorce in September 2014. Kody and Robyn legally marry in December of that year. I am very curious if Kody and Mary had any sort of spiritual wedding ceremony after their divorce or not. If nothing else, Mary deserved some sort of ceremony. I wouldn't be surprised if Kody considered Mary's feelings in any way, though. Um, to Kody, he claims he doesn't have a favorite wife. He said, and I quote, "It's not about a favorite. It's about finding favor." Basically, he's saying he shows preferential treatment to the wife who likes him the best. And to that, sir, I say, get bent. That's where we're at. So something else I should mention. After the spiritual wedding, Kody and Robyn had two more children together. Solomon in October 2011 and Ariella in January 2016. So when the show first started, the Brown family is living in Utah in a massive house that is made up of 3 separate apartments. At the time, Robyn was living 5 hours away, which caused so many issues with the wives because back then Kody was splitting his time equally amongst the wives. And when Robyn came in, Kody decided, well, she should also have equal time, which meant less time for the other wives because he also had to add in 10 hours of driving to go see Robyn. So just before the wedding, the family helps Robyn move to a house that's about half a mile away from the big house that everyone else lives in. Then in season 2, they start really pushing the idea that their plural lifestyle was illegal in Utah and how they lived in constant fear of being found out. Yes, polygamy is illegal in Utah. However, there are about 30 to 40,000 polygamists living in the state. So the crime is rarely prosecuted, and authorities, they tend to focus on bigger issues, like, for example, child abuse. They focus more on that than on
Right.
polygamy. Um, so when the show claimed that the Brown family was under investigation and that their home was seconds away from being raided by authorities, that was not true. But of course, it makes for interesting television, especially
Yes.
when the show has sirens playing in the background as the family is scrambling to fit their belongings in a U-Haul, and Robyn is crying, and I quote, "This isn't the America that I grew up learning about."
Okay.
So Kody decides the family has to go somewhere safe. They decide to uproot the kids and move the family to Vegas in January 2011. Was it necessary? Not really. The kids were given 3 days' notice that they were leaving their friends behind and never returning, which feels harsh, at the very least. The kids were also told that if they stayed in Utah, Kody would go to jail.
Oh,
Again, the
wow.
crime of polygamy is rarely prosecuted, and even if it is, most likely it's just a simple fine. But again, that's not dramatic enough for a TV series. As Kody put it, quote, "Every day we're here, my family goes deeper and deeper into fear."
Okay.
I know it's a reality show and that often shows will add things just to make it exciting to watch, but to listen to a straight white man talk about how he's hoping that Vegas will be more tolerant to him is eye rolling at best. So, as someone who moved around a lot as a child, I'm talking like every 3 or 4 years, I understand how it feels to move to a new place and to think that they did this for no reason but to liven up a TV show is so gross to me. Mary's child, Leon, took the move the hardest, presenting a list as to why they felt they should get to stay behind. I assume live with other family members or friends or something. Kody said the list was valid to a teenager. Walk a mile in their shoes, dude. But it's never about the kids. It's only about Kody. And the fact that he made those children believe if they didn't move, they'd be separated as a family is ridiculous. He also made them move at night so that they could like sneak out of town under the cloak of darkness, which again feels like unnecessary trauma to put your children through. And to be like any siren you hear, it's like that could be the police coming for your father. Like that feels too much.
Yes.
So there is also a theory, it, whether it's accurate or not, I don't know. But there's a theory that the family specifically chose Nevada because of child entertainment laws. At
Interesting.
the time, permits were not required to employ a minor in entertainment. Is it true that that's why they did it? I don't know, but knowing Kody, I would not be surprised. So the family moves to Vegas. They end up spread across 4 different homes because shockingly, there isn't a house available that's big enough for all of them. And I know what you're thinking. How the heck did they afford this? Great question. I can only assume TLC was paying them handsomely. When the show first started, Kody said he worked in advertising sales. Prior to that, he worked at a firearms store, he worked as a lumberjack, and as a traveling salesman. So really, being paid to appear on Sister Wives is the only long-term career that Kody has ever had. But to support a family of that size, it was a struggle. Janelle was often the breadwinner, which is not an easy task for one person to support 3 families. Janelle filed for bankruptcy in 1997, and at one point before the show started, Janelle and her kids left the family and went to live with her mother. Apparently, Kody had to convince Janelle to return. It took several years, uh, and once she came back, the family continued to struggle financially as Kody and Mary both filed for bankruptcy in 2005, and Christine filed in 2010. Kody filed a second time in 2015. As of this record, Robyn is the only spouse in the family who has not filed for bankruptcy. However, she came into the family with a large amount of debt, which included a lot of high balances on a series of credit cards, including cards from Victoria's Secret. When fans questioned why Robyn was shopping at Victoria's Secret, which is not exactly cheap, Robyn claimed she had to buy her pants there because it was the only store that sold the specific length of pants she needed due to her tall frame and long legs. She's 5'6". You do not need specialty clothes for 5'6".
No, you don't.
I specifically went and looked up heights because I was like, that feels.
That also doesn't explain the all the charges for Victoria's Secret. Are they selling long pants there? Not the last time I checked.
It's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm sure she cried about it and blamed everybody else. But because, she's the victim. So, since joining the family, Robyn never had a job outside the home and therefore relied on Kody and the other wives for financial support. If she was a stay-at-home mom, then that makes absolute sense to me. But at one point, she asked Kody to hire a nanny to help her out because Robyn said she was too busy. Kody, of course, said yes, and Robyn's step-niece Mindy started working as the family's nanny. Robyn said she and Kody had a lot going on during the day, and it wasn't fair to ask Kody to help out since he has so many responsibilities. Yes, his responsibilities are called his children. He wouldn't be helping, he'd be parenting. Just for Robyn, of course, which makes complete sense. Because when Christine said she was overwhelmed and she needed Kody's help putting her kids to bed at night because she was working outside the home, Kody told Christine she was being selfish. And then he told her just to have their 10-year-old put the kids to bed. But then when Robyn needs help because she's busy, not working outside the home like Christine, then she was allowed a nanny. Again, Robyn's the favorite. I'll say it.
Mhm.
It's like how anytime Christine asks Kody to spend more time with her and their children, Kody calls her selfish and says that Christine is not acting in the best interest of the family as a whole. But then Robyn asks Kody to be at her house more, and Kody says it's necessary because Robyn has, quote, tender aged children who need to be around their father more. Tender aged. What decade are you from? And just say that Robyn gets more time because she has the youngest kids. But Christine's daughter truly is 1 year older than one of those tender aged children. So wouldn't she also be tender aged and require a father? It's infuriating.
Yeah.
There's also talk online from fans who say that Robyn is basically, I can't remember the word for it, but like infantizing her children, and like they're like 6 and 7 running around with soothers to try and make them seem younger in Kody's brain. So he is like, they're just babies. They need to be.
Infantilizing.
Thank you so much. Of
Mhm.
course you would know, but I'm just saying
Yowza.
that's the talk on the chit chats online, on
I
the
like that.
chit chats. So, again, once I start talking about Kody being frustrating, I get distracted from the topic at hand. We were talking financials. According to some of the children from the Brown family, Kody and Robyn are the absolute worst when it comes to spending. They seem to be living beyond their means. You know, for example, like at Christmas, when Kody bought Robyn's children 3 motorized mini bikes, he said, quote, "They're not even expensive. They were $850 a piece." Oh, and he bought those for Robyn's kids and nothing for his other children.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. Great guy. But to focus on the financials, over the years, the family has come up with new ways to earn money. Janelle wanted to start a gym. Mary at one point wanted to start a B&B. Both of these ideas, Kody absolutely screamed at them. He was like, "You need capital to start a business." He went on and on about how his wives just didn't understand that and they would never make it work. And then Robyn was like, "What if we start a jewelry business and we'll call it My Sister Wives Closet?" And wouldn't you know, Kody said, "We can absolutely move money around to make that work." Well, spoiler alert, the business failed miserably, and the other wives were blamed for not being enthusiastic enough about the project because it was Robyn's dream.
Right.
Why would they be enthusiastic, by the way? Their ideas were shut down, Robyn's idea was pushed ahead, and everyone else was just forced to participate. And I'll just say it, the designs were jank.
Thank you.
I'll post pictures of them. Um, Yikes is what I'll say. I'm sorry, they were. But not surprisingly, the website stopped selling products in the spring of 2019. It claims it'll be back soon. I doubt it.
That's been 5 years, so
Yeah, it's been a bit. It's been a bit. Speaking of financially poor decisions, in 2018, Kody got the brilliant idea to uproot the family once again and move, this time to Flagstaff, Arizona. Kody told his wives that Arizona would be so great, it would be like a birthday every day. Kody said the reason for the move was because Arizona was cheaper to live in and way safer than Vegas. What I like is it took you 7 years to decide that it's like, you know what would be safer for our children? It's like, took you 7 years, but okay. Robyn said she was really worried the Vegas culture would influence the kids as they got older, which is fascinating because at that point it was really only Robyn's kids who were like growing up. The rest of them were mostly older at the time, so it's like she was only focused on her own kids. Ah, but since it's come out that the family really moved to Arizona because Robyn's son Dayton got accepted to Northern Arizona University and Robyn wanted to live closer to him.
Mm.
So, of course, Kody uprooted the entire family, lied to them about the reasons, and made them move because that's what Robyn wanted.
Right.
The family purchased 14 acres of land called Coyote Pass. The plan was to build 5 houses, one for each wife, and one for Kody. You don't need your own house. The what I mean, you're supposed to split time amongst them. So there's no point in having your own house. You can have your own space in one of the houses. Sure, have your own space in each of the houses. You don't need your own house. But it's this massive rectangle of land, and they plan to split it up kind of into thirds where two plots were 2/3 of this whole thing, and the other third was gonna be 3 plots. So one person got a tiny little house compared to the other 2. Well, 2 of the other wives technically would get way less than the other wife or than 2 of the people. I will post a picture because it's incredibly confusing. But the plan was Mary was for sure getting half the amount of land as everyone else. She said that was unfair. It absolutely was. The entire thing became a huge mess for the Browns. The family did not end up building on the land, which cost $820,000, by the
Buzzer.
way. As of this record, Kody is behind on the property taxes for that uh, set of land. And speaking of a huge mess for the Brown family, in March 2015, Mary met a man on Twitter named Sam Cooper, a business tycoon in his early 40s. Since this was like 6 months after her legal divorce from Kody, Mary was likely feeling lonely and hurt and looking for someone to talk to. Mary and Sam had many private, intimate conversations, and 6 months later, Mary discovered that Sam was really a woman named Jackie Overton.
Oh.
Jackie leaked some very personal messages that Mary had sent to Sam, including one of Mary posing seductively with a banana.
Oh dear.
Yeah. When Mary learned the truth about Jackie in August 2015, she was devastated. Jackie claimed the romance was real to her and then posted all of Mary's private voicemails and intimate text messages online and published a book called Almost Married.
Wow.
Yeah. So I doubt the feelings were ever real for her. She was clearly looking to cash in on someone else's pain, which is beyond gross. So Mary, who is absolutely never deserving anything like that, gets publicly shamed for her potential relationship with this catfish. According to Kody, this was the moment their relationship started to break down. Of course, if you ask Mary, that was 6 years prior when Robyn entered the family. Um, Mary is a lot nicer than that. She said the turning point specifically for her was when he melted down her wedding ring.
Yeah.
Um, but let's face it, it was because of Robyn. Kody would, of course, act like the victim in the whole thing, as though he hadn't emotionally abandoned Mary years prior. But that's how Kody operates. He acts like he's the selfless one who gives everything to his family and gets nothing in return. But we see him for who he is, an absolute complete selfish jackass. But, example, we're going to talk about Christine's daughter, Isabel. When Isabel was about 13 or 14 years old, she was diagnosed with scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine. Now, apparently, when it comes to scoliosis, once the curve of the spine hits 50 degrees, surgery is your only option. Once it was found that Isabel needed surgery, Kody was really hesitant. He kept saying he was worried about Isabel's quality of life after a major surgery. So instead of surgery, Kody initially put Isabel in an exercise program, which was
No.
created to help straighten the spine. Surprisingly, the program did slightly help. The curve of her spine went from 45 degrees down to 35 degrees.
Okay.
But that poor kid was in so much pain. Christine was like, the surgery has to happen. And in February 2020, the family were told that Isabel had officially qualified to get the surgery and that it would be performed in September. Now, of course, the fall of 2020 was deep into the COVID pandemic. And Kody said he didn't feel comfortable breaking quarantine to attend the surgery. He first suggested postponing the surgery. But since Isabel was experiencing like an intense amount of pain, postponing it was not an option. So Kody then suggested that Isabel go by herself. She was 17 at the time, and the surgery would require her to fly to New Jersey. Christine, being the absolute fucking rock star that she is, was like, absolutely not. I will just go with her. Christine was also like, I will stay the 2 weeks post surgery that you're required to stay. Christine later said that it was doing that trip on her own that she discovered she actually didn't need Kody at all. And that sound you hear is all of our listeners doing a collective, yes, girl.
Yep.
Didn't need him. He's useless. So I get that flying across the country and being away from your favorite wife is a big ask, especially deep in a global pandemic. But this was a major, major surgery. Put on a mask, bring some hand sanitizer, and be there for your child. But Kody couldn't wrap his brain around it because he said he was really terrified he'd get COVID, which, okay, sure, valid, I guess. Kody had incredibly strict rules about quarantine. Everyone who was around their family had to wear masks in public. They had to all disinfect their groceries. They only let the kids see their friends for limited times, and they had to maintain a 10-foot social distance. Janelle teased Kody about the list, saying he was overreacting. He responded, quote, "Are you too lazy to do a few chores?" Yeah.
Wow.
And look, I'm not mocking Cody's list because I get it. At the beginning of the pandemic, we were all freaking out and wiping down our groceries. It was literally unprecedented times, and everyone was trying to be safe. And you'd think that if Kody was so serious about COVID, he would get vaccinated. He did not.
Jesus.
In fact, Robyn and Kody are allegedly outright against all vaccinations. And for anyone who wants to post comments or send us messages about the dangers of vaccines, stop. I trust medical science. You will not change my mind. And no, I do not worry the government is using vaccines to track me. I am not that interesting. She just goes back and forth between 7-Eleven, McDonald's, and home, sir. We'll keep an eye on her. She'll change it up at some point, and when she does, we'll be ready. Just stop. And if my belief in vaccines makes you suddenly dislike me and make you want to stop listening to the show, that is your right, just like it is my right to spend 2024 focusing on joy.
Yeah.
So now that that rant is over, Kody, super serious about COVID, outright refused to go to Isabel's surgery because he didn't want to break the quarantine he had with Robyn. Because, of course, if he's quarantining anywhere, it's with Robyn. Because where else would he quarantine? With his second favorite wife? Stop. And while Kody continues to justify his reasoning, he really pissed off fans by referring to the surgery as a vacation. I can't imagine the fear and pain that Isabel went through during that entire surgery and recovery process. Not to mention Christine. I can't imagine how helpless you feel as a parent watching your child go through something like that. So, no, Kody, it wasn't a vacation at all. Kody then had the balls to say, quote, "I just wish she'd hurry up and get better so I can stop feeling bad."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. But what pissed fans off even more was that in the summer of 2021, Kody broke the quarantine that he had with Robyn to travel to another state to officiate a friend's wedding. And yeah, COVID had calmed down slightly by that point, and Kody was only away from home for 4 days as opposed to, like, the multiple weeks the surgery would have required. Kody said, quote, "No man can be away from work and from home and from family for that long." To which I say, "What do you do for work, Kody? Just asking for a friend."
Yeah.
But the thing about the wedding is that Kody went completely unvaccinated and he had close contact with multiple people, including like slow dancing with people, which requires you to be a lot closer than the 10 feet he had laid out in his original plan. Oh, right. And multiple guests at the wedding arrived from out of state and no one wore a mask. It's just interesting that he didn't fear COVID in that moment for
Yeah.
that literal vacation. But,
Yeah, exactly.
the point is the hospital never would have scheduled that surgery if it wasn't absolutely necessary. Your child needed you, so that was your moment to be there for her. Remember how in season 2 of the show, when Leon was upset about moving to Vegas and you told them that God gave the children to you for the sole purpose of you taking care of them and you took that job really seriously? 'Cause yeah, I went back. I watched some I binged some episodes for this. Well, sometimes taking care of children means supporting them during a major surgery even when you're uncomfortable. But this is the same man who told Janelle she needed to kick their sons out of her house, a house he did not live in, a house that was Janelle's. They needed to be kicked out because no kids over the age of 18 should be living at home. At the time, 3 of Robyn's children over the age of 18 were living at the house, and Kody did not question it. But that's just the kind of double standard type bullshit that Kody does, which leads me to a section that I've simply called things that Kody has done or said that gives me the ick. Because there's just too many, so they're just a nice healthy point form for us.
Rapid fire.
Yeah. How over the top and phony he is on the show. Like when he cried because he didn't see Robyn's daughter, Aurora, for 10 days because she was quarantining in the level of the house below him. But then he didn't cry after not seeing Janelle's daughter, Savannah, for 6 weeks.
Right.
As previously mentioned, he has terribly obvious raccoon eyes from his overuse of tanning beds. The fact that despite finances being tight, he drives a fancy little two-door sports car, which isn't a really convenient vehicle for a man with 18 children. When Kody and Robyn were courting and he went to visit her for a weekend, Kody took 2 of his teenage daughters with him just so they could babysit so he and Robyn could go on dates alone. The number of times that Kody publicly stated he wasn't attracted to his wives and how often it coincided with a time when they didn't do something he told them to. Quote from the man himself, quote, "I'm sure there are millions of people in the world who misinterpret what I do as hedonistic and selfish. My response is, every day I work my tail off for this family. Every day I manage 4 separate marriages, 4 entirely different relationships, 4 distinct personalities. I'm not doing this for fun and games. I'm doing it because it's my calling." Notice how he says he manages the relationships as though the women aren't putting in any effort at all. I can't imagine the exhausting effort it would be to be in his company, let alone carry on a relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
He can't separate his feelings from his wife from his feelings with his children. So if he's mad at one of his wives, he won't speak to the children he had with those wives. Kody is conditional with his love. He says, quote, "Honor the entire family and I will love you." Then there's also the fact that he uses sex as a punishment. He told one wife, quote, "We're not having intimacy until you get things straight." AKA, until she agrees with him, he won't touch her in any sort of intimate nature, which, get bent. So he said making money was more important than spending time with his children. He also added that it wasn't normal for him to watch his own children, although to be fair, he did use the term babysit.
Right.
That is not a thing. You do not babysit the children you've created. You don't babysit the children you adopted. You babysit someone else's children.
Yeah.
Once the child is yours, you do not babysit that child. You take care of them.
You're a parent. Yes.
You're a parent. You're a parent. That's all it is. Oh, and then there's the time that the family went to Kody's parents' ranch in Wyoming. And this is such a dumb thing, but Kody's mother was there. I believe like his first biological mother. She's there eating like a breakfast sandwich. He grabs it out of her hand and just like downs like half of it and then says to the camera, quote, "She's so sweet. What's mine is mine and what's hers is mine." It's just he thinks he's so fucking charming and he's not. He's just not. Um oh yeah, that same Christmas that he spent over $2,000 on mini bikes for Robyn's children, not only did he not buy anything for his other kids, he also didn't even bother to call one of his daughters. And then there was the time, even though he spoke to him on the phone that day, he forgot his son Gabriel's birthday. So didn't mention it at all. In anger, once Kody said to Christine, quote, "The sacrifices I made to love you." Hmm. The time that Kody said that his wives were like dogs, panting, chasing him, saying, "Pick me, pick me." In the interview, which of course was recorded and put on television, he even made the panting noises and commented about like how he came around. His wives were all like, "Oh, pick me." I'm like, "You fucking prick." Again. After an argument with some of his older sons regarding Kody's COVID rules, he said his sons were dead to him. What was the argument? Some of the sons were continuing to like see their friends and date girls during quarantine. Kody was concerned that this was putting his younger children, aka the children he had with Robyn, at risk of getting COVID. He then said the most vile thing and said, quote, "If one of my little children were to die because someone had to get his pencil wet." He referred to his sons having sex as getting their pencils wet. I
Gross.
just don't know how much more disgusting a human being can get.
Yeah.
Quote from Kody. "To be honest, I'm not sure if any one of my wives could fulfill all my needs, nor do I believe I'm fulfilling all theirs." You don't you think you require multiple wives so all of your needs can get met? Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
The one time Kody was left in charge of the children, the four wives went on a girls' trip to San Francisco. So Kody was supposed to watch the children, although, wouldn't you know, he left most of the responsibility to his daughter Aspen. And Aspen, bless her, noticed that Christine's daughter Truly, who was 3 at the time, she noticed she had the flu. But Aspen was like, something's not right, and she started getting concerned. So Aspen tells Kody, "Hey, something's not right with Truly." And Kody just brushes it off. Truly was becoming like lethargic. She was going cross-eyed, like something was wrong. When Christine gets home, Truly gets rushed to a hospital where it's found that she's suffering from dehydration and acute kidney failure.
Oh my God.
Thankfully, Truly was released from the hospital nearly a week later, but she almost died while in Kody's care. He has never once admitted he fucked up. He only said, quote, "I think Christine hates me partly because Truly almost died and she thought I'd been negligent." Because you absolutely were. I just, mm. So it shouldn't come as a surprise. In November 2021, Christine announced that she was leaving Kody after 25 years of spiritual marriage. And that sound is everyone breathing a sigh of relief for Christine. Kody then started giving a shit about his children with Christine, or more specifically, the youngest, Truly, who was 11 at the time. Kody told Christine that if they were going to separate, they needed to a custody agreement in Arizona for Truly, because if they didn't have one, the state then automatically gets her. He said, quote, "You and I have to actually have a child custody agreement in place or the state essentially becomes the owner of her." When Christine seemed kind of surprised by that, Kody said, "Yeah, it's stupid." No, it's not stupid. It's a lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie. And he damn well knows it's a lie because when asked about it in an interview, he said, "I just started getting creative about it," which is an outright admission that he lied to get his way. He said the reason he lied was because, quote, "there is this thing in the manosphere where if it says if you're getting divorced, you're getting screwed, bro." So then you admit that it's not about your daughter and simply about your ego. Kody then pushes it further and tells Christine they have to have an agreement that's 50-50. Quote, "Otherwise, you're going to get a lawyer and the lawyer's going to take all the money you have." Again, he's just fully lying to her and trying to scare her into doing what he wants. He's gross and we all know it. After Christine left, Kody worried that his other wives would follow suit. He said, quote, "I'm going to be the head of my household again, and so I'm not going to be circumvented in that." He then told the remaining wives they needed to, quote, "conform to the patriarchy again."
Oof.
To quote the 2002 movie Austin Powers in Gold member, how about no? That's where she's at.
I love that.
So Janelle supported Christine, which pissed off Kody. And the whole fight during COVID about Janelle's sons living at home was the final nail in the coffin. In December 2022, Janelle announced she and Kody separated months prior. They had been spiritually married nearly 30 years. During a confessional, Janelle said she missed spending time with Kody because he was her best friend. Kody was told this. His response, and I quote, "Janelle's not in love with me. I think she thinks I'm hot. I've got nice pecs and a great six-pack abs, but that's all she's interested in." When Janelle was told this, she openly laughed. But six-pack is
I think
laughable.
yeah.
"The dude doth protest too much, methinks." Yeah, that was Shakespeare. Me quoting Shakespeare in the middle of an episode about a reality show is about as shocking as Kody Brown truly believing he has six-pack abs. Anyhow, a month after Janelle and Kody split, Mary confirmed she and Kody had permanently terminated their relationship. A year later, in January 2024, up to date, Mary announced to the world she was in a relationship with a man named Amos, who I'll say is more attractive than Kody Brown. Did I have to say that? No, but it was so much fun. So I'll say it. In April 2023, Christine became engaged to a man named David Woolley. They soon moved in together, which caused Kody to make a big stink about it and publicly claim he felt it was inappropriate for his 13-year-old daughter to live in an unwed household. Kody, you and Christine never legally married, so technically, your daughters only ever lived in an unwed household.
Yeah.
So there's that. Christine and David were married in October 2023. Honestly, I could not be happier for her. She looked beautiful and full of light and happiness. She deserves that, and I love that for her. Kody has since said he has no interest in ever adding another wife to the family. He said, quote, I would have to tell that woman, I will never love you as much as I love her. Meaning Robyn, of course. So yeah, maybe polygamy wasn't for him after all.
It feels like, again, that's the thing that keeps coming up for in my mind.
It's a recurring theme.
Feels like a theme.
Yeah. He has since stated, quote, I don't advise people to marry and go over 3 wives. The number wasn't the problem, dude. It was the fact that you clearly chose one over the others and that you pushed for that 4th marriage, even when your wives said things about it like, quote, this is tearing us apart. Or Mary said, quote, I don't want to do this. I'm comfortable how we are. But plowed ahead anyway. You ignored your wife's needs in favor of your own, and now you're down to being monogamous. You are the definition of fucked around and found out. There it is. But of course, Kody's ego can't handle the fact that 3 of his wives have left him, so he has started to publicly claim he never loved them to begin with. Sir, in your book, you wrote, and I quote, when I say I love each of my wives wholly, passionately, and eternally, I am telling the truth. And then there's the pilot episode of your show. You said, quote, I just fell in love, and then I fell in love again, and then I fell in love again. And that, Kody Brown, is what we call receipts. The final episode of season 18 of Sister Wives recently aired. As of this record, it has not been said whether the show will continue or not. Reporting for True Crime and Cocktails, I'm Christy Oxborrow.
Oh, how beautiful. All right. I got so many things to say. Let's take one more break, grab another drink, hit the cam one more time, and we'll be back to wrap it up on the Sister Wives episode of True Crime and Cocktails. Final clap. Here we go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're, of course, discussing Sister Wives. I just have so many thoughts and feelings. I don't even know where to begin. I want to preface this by saying something. I think that, we live in a time where there are lots of different types of relationships that are becoming more seen in society. And I think it's important to note that I truly believe that however anyone wants to live, whatever kind of relationship works for you, God bless you.
Yeah.
As long as everyone is equally consenting, as long as everyone is legal, as long as no one is being hurt, I truly, truly support it all. I think the difference here is that there is such power imbalance and such bizarre kind of psychological stuff going on that to me is the biggest issue. I think when we talk about polygamy in terms of religion and what that looks like for a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of stories. I read a book called Favorite Wife that is harrowing.
Sure. Oh,
harrowing to read. We're talking underage girls. We're talking, so again, I just think it's important. I want to give that caveat that everything that I'm about to say, we're talking about this situation. I'm not talking about people who may be in open relationships or living in poly relationships. That is something else to me because everyone in those situations is consenting.
Yes.
And it doesn't feel like in what we're talking about in general with the kind of religious based situation that everyone is consenting. And certainly in some ways in this situation, I really don't think all of these women knew what they were getting into. And also their voices just never continued to be heard. But that's all part of it too. It's like he's saying, submit to the patriarchy. Like that's what this is being based in. And I had a conversation recently where I was talking about my own personal definition of feminism. And I think that sometimes there's this like feeling that to be a real feminist, that you have to believe that women should be one specific way. And what I would offer is that my personal viewpoint on feminism is that all I believe is that women should have the right to choose whatever life they want, and they should have the information to be able to make informed decisions. Because I think that sometimes, especially when we're talking about these deep, deep religious upbringings, these women are not being shown any other way. So they think that this is the way it has to be. And what I'm saying is, if those women were provided with all of the information about here are all the things that you can do, here are all the ways that life can be, and then they still chose this choice, then I say I support them. To me, that's what it is to be a feminist. It's supporting each woman's own personal journey. I have no right to say that my journey is right and theirs is wrong. What I can say is wrong is women being disenfranchised and not knowing that they have agency in their lives to make another decision. That's where it breaks apart for me. And this is such a story of that, I think, in so many ways. And it's so interesting how it turned out in the end. And I know the story is not over yet, but I mean, to date. Anyway, I'm on a soapbox.
No, I like it.
I'm exhausted and I cannot wait to continue. That's what happens. You know what I mean? That's what happens.
Yeah.
We get tired and we get punchy, and I love it.
Yes.
I felt jealous of their afternoons. They had to develop a relationship, but I was mature. This is the first moment for me where it breaks down, and it breaks my heart, because Mary had this kind of feeling like I had to be mature. And to her, being mature was I had to accept that my feelings were secondary to what was happening.
He wants. Yeah.
To what he wants. And that's the nature of how this works. That to me is heartbreaking, because in a perfect world, if we were going to say that one of these relationships, that this relationship was going to work, it would have to be based on constant communication. It would have to be, I think that most relationships should be, by the way, but certainly in this scenario, it would need to be a situation where everyone has a voice and everyone's feelings are valid. But again, this comes back to it all being based in patriarchy and obey and submit to your husband and follow the Bible. And I'm not slamming religion. I'm slamming this specific sect of religion that is making women feel that their feelings don't matter and that their voices don't need to be heard.
Yeah.
And she was so young. She was also like 20 at the time. It was like, my God, you don't need this.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The specific that Janelle married Mary's brother, and then they got divorced, and then Janelle got married to Kody. When we were talking about, Robyn being like, we needed time to be intimate for those 11 days because we hadn't been. And you pointed out, like, well, 2 of his other wives were virgins at the time. I was like, yeah. And the other one had sex with one of her sister wives' brothers first. And this isn't a judgment of her. It's more, again, a comment on what is this world they're in?
Oh, yeah.
It's wild to me. And the fact that each person is like somebody's between first and fourth cousin.
Yeah.
It's just feeling, again, like it's such a sheltered, specific upbringing and view of the world. That's, again, where I get my backup, that it's like, but I want these women to have, everyone, but especially the women, to have the ability to know that there's a bigger world out there.
Yeah. Well, hey, something I didn't mention, but it kind of goes in with this. When they moved to Vegas, they didn't have a church to attend. So they kind of started doing their own church service. Power to you. Great.
Sure.
For one of them, Kody had Robyn give the family a sermon about purity. Keep in mind, all the wives, all the children were there. And she told them the story about how she had sex in college before she was married. It was described as she got pregnant, and it was the absolute biggest mistake of her life. The child she was pregnant with sat through that sermon. Like, it's the fact that they don't even see that. It's like, you just told that child to his face he was the biggest mistake you ever made. Like, the fact that they don't even see that. And it was also like the kids seemed uncomfortable and also just like didn't care what was being said. It was uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
But I love that he's like, you know what you need to do? You need to tell the entire family. You need to confess to everybody what you've done and explain to them how bad it was. make sure the child you got pregnant with was there.
It's so gross.
It's gross. I can't believe he did it when that's his favorite.
I also am having a hard time understanding like how much of this is being concocted for television and how much of it is real.
Sure.
Because what I'll say is this, and I wrote this down later, but it connects directly to what you just said too, which is if they're playing up this favoritism for the cameras,
Sure.
if that was a part of the storyline from the beginning, the children are still the ones that are going to suffer because
Yeah.
even if they're telling the children we're playing this up for the cameras, the whole point is that the entire world views their family. Anybody who watches this show views their family through this
Yeah.
lens. And it also feels like I don't know that it's 100% made up for the camera, the storylines. To me, it feels like they kind of ran with it and probably embellished in places because
Sure.
that was what was happening. Because it just, as I mentioned before, anytime I check in with him in this story, it's like, I don't think that he wanted to become live in polygamy because he really believed in what it was about. I think he wanted to do it because he saw his dad do it and he went, cool, I could have multiple wives and then I could have all these kids, which are an extension of my status and make me look like a virile, powerful man. I
Yeah.
think he wants to be monogamous with Robyn. I've always thought that. And
Oh,
when
yeah.
I tuned in a little bit during the pandemic and I saw that he had specifically chosen, oh, I'm just going to quarantine with her. I'm like, you've made your choice.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't feel to me like this is based in, I really believe in this and I love all my wives and I love all my children and I'm going to do my best to spread myself as I can. No, he just chose. He eventually just chose, period.
Oh, 100% he did.
And the fact that he's like, I won't remarry again is just so telling.
Oh, of course it is.
The fact, too, you know, oh, I'm skipping ahead. I'm going to go back for a second, but put a pin in that for a second. You're going to love what I refuse to skip over. When he described Christine as eating chili cheese nachos for breakfast, all I could think was, she's my hero. That sounds
Yep.
delicious. I love it. I love that
Yep.
she was marching to the beat of her own drummer, and fuck
Yeah.
that guy for shaming her about it because that's absolutely repulsive and ridiculous.
Yep.
Um, the fact that he referred to Robyn as a diesel jeans model, but then also shuddered with ick because she was divorced with 3 kids. It's just, again, it speaks to the hypocrisy that we see so often in extreme religious cults and groups. The 4th honeymoon being 11 days to San Diego. I want to say this with kindness. I love San Diego, beautiful city. Love going there, spending a weekend. I don't know
Sure.
what you do for 11 days in San Diego. I have to say, I think a lot of that time was like, I don't know what else. You know what I'm
That
saying?
was the perfect Price is Right sound. That was, God, that was so good. Yeah. Oh, 100%. Again, it's the fact that she got over twice the length. She got like 3 times the length that the other wives got. Um, and the fact that she knew it would tick the other wives off, and her response was like, I didn't tell him to do it. He knew I needed it. And it's like, you don't think the other wives needed it?
Well,
Like, I just,
I think to me,
yeah,
now I got to get into Robyn for a minute. To me, it seems like it's interesting that there's this theory that she was just doing it to be on TV because it doesn't necessarily feel like she really wanted to be in one of these relationships either. When you hear women, or when I have heard of women who are in what they consider to be successful polygamous relationships, it isn't described this way. You know what I
sure.
mean? The women typically talk about how they really like that it's them raising a family with these sister wives, that they all care for the kids together, that
Yep.
it's this real kind of focus on family, good, bad, or indifferent. That's what I've heard communicated. Robyn doesn't seem to have that at all. What it seems
Yep.
like to me is that she wanted to come in, you know, she was raised in this religion, so she must have some connection to it being normal or something that she would aspire to. But it seems like she just wanted to win. And I think
100%.
the thing that is fascinating to me is the story about he was supposed to be spending 2 nights at Christine's house. And the first night, he takes everyone out to dinner, ignores his kids with Christine. And then Robyn insisted on coming over, and they had to talk outside and wouldn't leave until he kissed her goodnight. He likes the one who pushed back. Isn't that fascinating? He's telling all of his wives he wants them to submit to him and patriarchy, etc. But all the other 3 were doing that. In the beginning, they were all pushing down their own feelings, not communicating their needs or wants, obeying him, not pushing back about anything. But isn't it interesting that the wife who pushes back and wants more time and tells him to do things and has him break the rules, that's the one that he went for?
Yeah.
Fascinating. It's fascinating to me.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe he got, after 20 years of 3 wives just being like, yep, whatever you want. And then suddenly he had one that was like, I don't know. Maybe suddenly he was like, oh, this is different, changing it up. But instead of like have an affair, leave your wives, whatever, he was like, we'll just add a 4th.
Right.
I'm not suggesting he should have had an affair or
No.
left his wife, but I'm just saying, like, his midlife crisis was add another wife.
I think 100%. I think that a lot of people, I mean, I'm not going to generalize with a gender, but I think there is a lot of people who think that what they want is this kind of like docile, subservient partner. But in reality, a lot of people prefer someone who challenges them, who keeps them on their toes, who's, you know, it's like you'll see TikToks all the time about, or I guess on my algorithm of men, straight men specifically, talking about like, I don't know where this narrative came from that a woman being needy is a bad thing. I'm not using the term needy personally. I'm just using their term.
Sure.
Because I don't view it that way either. But the idea being that there's a lot of men coming out saying like, well, I kind of like that my partner is into me. I like that she wants to know what I'm doing. I like that she pushes back and she gets jealous. Now, I'm not saying that those are good traits or bad traits or anything. I'm just saying I think it speaks to this very interesting part of human psychology where, again, I think the things that we're told that are, you know, ideal in a partner and the things that are actually appealing in a partner for some people are vastly different.
Yeah.
The melting down of the ring is wild. Absolutely wild. The fact that Robyn never had a job outside the house, but was the one who was allowed to hire a nanny. Wild. The fact that he bought her children gifts and nothing for the other kids. I mean, it's horrifying. And
Yeah.
and again, like that was my next note that I was like, at the end of the day, who gives a shit what this man is doing with whoever he's doing it with in terms of women? But I give a lot of shits about the fact that all of these kids are being dragged into this.
100%.
It's not the damage that's clearly been done and is continuing to be done, we shall only see. But none of these kids had any agency in choosing to be a part of this TV show, of choosing to be a part of this family life that they have. It's really sad to me. And again, to my earlier point, I don't know why you only buy Christmas gifts for one of your wife's children without that, like, if that's only for the storyline of the show.
Sure.
Because that's sick.
Yes.
The story about Mary and the catfish made my heart break. I
Oh,
remembered as
yeah.
you were telling me, I remembered now I had watched some of those episodes around that time. My heart always broke for Mary in general. She always
Oh,
seemed
yeah.
like she felt like she was less than because she wasn't able to have more children with him, and that's such a, like, point of pride within their culture and whatnot. She always broke my heart, and that catfish thing really broke my heart too. I was like, this poor
Yeah.
woman who's just looking for connection, who feels so rejected and lonely. She's divorced this husband so that he can remarry
Oh,
his other wife. Also, I love that he's like, well, so I can give those kids health insurance. I'm going to just go out on a limb here. What about Christine's daughter that required a massive surgery? Maybe you should have legally married her to get health insurance for that child. Or did she have
Great
health
point.
insurance because Christine was working somewhere? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, it feels wild that it was. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time he lied to a wife to get something.
Great point. Great point. Um, the fact that he was so terrified about COVID but wouldn't get vaccinated is interesting to me. I would say traditionally people who weren't vaccinated weren't necessarily terrified of it at the time. The two things, again, the math ain't mathin'. You know what I mean? It feels like he
Oh,
just
yeah.
was looking for any excuse to spend time with Robyn and Robyn only. I wish she'd just hurry up and get better so I can stop feeling bad. This really speaks to, I think, his actual narcissism. And I'm not throwing around narcissist. I really do think that he has a lot of the traits. And I want to remind
Yeah.
everyone that true narcissism is based in a deep self-loathing. It's a personality disorder that develops because someone really, really, really hates themselves. So this is how the brain counteracts to try not to look at that. And that makes sense to me. It makes sense then that he would want to have as many wives as possible. It makes sense that he believes he would say things like he has a six pack and great pecs,
Mm.
and things that are, again, like these kind of like delusional grandeur statements that aren't 100% true. It's continuing this delusion that he is better than he perceives himself to actually be deep down. It's so all of this again, I just feel like he has so much, and that statement about like, I wish my daughter would get better quicker so that I can stop feeling bad. That's something that a true narcissist would say. That's something who's like, I feel put upon that you're making me feel bad about you. That's
Yeah.
your fault. It's someone who has no responsibility for their own feelings and is like, well, all of this is being put upon me, which again, not great.
No.
I just wrote down, do any of the fans of the show like him? Does everyone who
Boy,
watches that show just hate watch it for him? Is
I
it
think
because they
so.
support the wives? Like, what are we?
From the best I can tell from the forums,
Thank you.
it seems that Kody and Robyn are despised. And it seems like everybody is just watching it to be supportive of the other wives. The amount of people who are like, cancel Sister Wives and give Janelle and Christine like their own show where it's like, this is their life after it. This is what, because they're super, super tight. And I'm sure there is some tightness with Mary as well, but it's just
And is
like, yeah,
Mary
I
still married to him? Like,
no,
not. Excuse me. I know they've got divorced, but like, are they still in a relationship?
with Kody, no.
Right.
No, he lost all three of them now.
For some reason, my brain thought that was true, and then I couldn't remember in the moment.
I respect that.
I thought that was the case, but then I was like, or is she still like tied to him in some way? But she's not.
No,
So
no. And
isn't that
apparently the claim is he's the one that was like, we're done.
uh-huh.
And I'm like,
Sure.
I bet I could see that being the truth if the other two left. And then he was like, well, you may as well go too. Like
Right.
I could see that.
Listen, I think, it has always felt like he was trying to fulfill some sort of void within himself with all of the wives. He only ever really seems to want to be with Robyn. He also doesn't really seem to have an interest in his other children. So
Yep.
it's interesting that he manifested that for himself in the end. It
Oh,
almost
yeah.
feels like he thought, how badly do I have to treat all these other women so that they'll leave me and I can just be with Robyn?
Yeah.
Whether that's conscious or subconscious on his part.
Oh, sure. I couldn't be happier for them to be like, you know what? I have to get out of this.
Yeah. Me
Good
too.
for you.
Me too. The fact that he had the quote, it's time to conform to the patriarchy again. I'm very,
Yep.
very proud of them for saying, no, you know what? There's more for me. And I choose that.
Yeah. And oh my God, the pictures from Christine's wedding, she is glowing. Like
Yes, I
like
saw
the
those.
happiness. Oh, I'm so glad for her.
And the last thing I want to say on all of this, you're going to love that this hot take.
I can't wait.
There's lots of people that get married under the age of 30 that have successful marriages. And I say, good for you. But I
Yeah.
think as we move further and further into the dumpster fire of the 2020s.
Yep.
I just would encourage people, like, there's really no rush. Your brain doesn't stop growing till you're 25. I don't really feel like I had a firm grasp on who I truly am until my late 30s. I think it really took me
Sure.
until I was like 38 to really get there. And, you know, I've often said personally that I could have been married to many different people and I've just avoided some divorces, which I stand
Hey,
by. But I would just offer this to anyone who's maybe listening, who's not married and is wanting to be, or not in a relationship, is wanting to be. You know, if Kody had waited, if he had dated people and whatnot, and then eventually met Robyn, ultimately, and this is no disrespect to his children, obviously, they're all, I think everyone's happy that they're here. I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't be, but that it would have been a better choice by any stretch. But I think for him, maybe he just didn't know who he was yet. When you're getting married for the first time
sure.
at 22, and because of his own ego and arrogance, he's never going to admit that he was wrong. He's never going to admit that it was
No.
like, I just didn't know myself yet. But yeah, I would just offer that I think that honestly, with time and age comes wisdom and self-awareness, and sometimes and I think that sometimes that is important before you get into a long-term lifelong partnership with somebody.
Yeah,
I've gone on a real tirade and a real tangent, and that's just what we do here.
I love it.
Thank you.
You're helping people out.
Trying.
That's what you're doing.
Trying. Trying.
Because again, I believe it was, I mean, it won't be a direct quote because I don't remember the exact quote. I believe it was Tracy Ellis Ross
Mhm.
who said that women were raised to dream of their wedding day and not of like so many other beautiful, great things that can happen in their life.
Right.
So we're raised to just everyone, like, where it's like, well, your ultimate goal is getting married. And it's like, is it? Wouldn't it be great if the ultimate goal was, to be happy in life?
And to know who you are, and then have a myriad of other possibilities, including getting married.
Yeah,
That can be on the table. Nothing wrong
sure.
with that. But again, that's not the end goal. I agree.
Correct. Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen, fantastic work as always. This was riveting for me. I couldn't love it more. And is it gonna make me revisit some episodes of the show? It might. Honestly, it might.
Yeah. Look, I had to revisit some just to as a refresher, and then I ended up going deeper and deeper into it. It's I'll say it. We all watch it because we can't stand it. And it's just the fact that he truly seems to believe that we buy all of his bullshit. The pilot episode for me is the worst because that's when he's at his most arrogant, where he's like, look at me driving around in my sports car with all my wives. Like, get out. And then acting like he's this doting father, where it's like, the second you brought in that other wife, suddenly you're not spending time with the other kids. And I mean, it's gross.
Oops.
And then it got to the point in like the more recent seasons where it's like the two youngest ones he has, which are kids he had with Robyn, um, can't stand for him to sleep in a different house. They have to see him every single day or they like have a breakdown. So it's like, oh, so they were raised to see you every day, whereas your other kids had to accept seeing you only every so many other days. And that
And
was
the
okay for
problem
them, but not okay for these other kids.
exactly, and that's kind of what I was gonna say, like, and the break-in pattern is supposed to be something that children understand,
Yeah.
really not setting up those kids for, emotional success.
No.
Dink. We thank you, dear listeners, for joining us for this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. If you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at True Crime and Cocktails, on Twitter at Not Detectives. If you'd like some more information, some bonus episodes, a live monthly Q&A, you can go over to patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails to learn more about our subscription-based service over there. And of course, the only place for official True Crime and Cocktails merch is truecrewmerch.com. So check that out as well if you're interested. Christy, do you want to tell the people about next week's episode?
On the next True Crime and Cocktails, the Casanova Killer.
Now, I've heard on good authority, Christy's texts to me earlier, that this is a serial killer. And I got to tell you something,
Yeah.
I've never heard of him and I am jazzed.
Agreed. It's the reason I chose it. Never heard of him, but loves that.
I cannot wait. Well, listen, Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
Continuing on. Good night, Tyson Forster.
Good night, Gordon Ramsay.